most complete fighter in the world.
Yippee-ki-yay,
You can call it the art of fighting without fighting.
Stick around. Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate on me.
Dodge this.
Oh, yes, we're back, buckaroos. That's what I'm labeling you for this season. It's technically and literally season 4, and I am not messing around with the first episode, the welcome back. You thought he was dead and that I had ruthlessly murdered him after season 2, and I just kept pretending he was on hiatus, but thanks to the miracle of $6 million and AI, a reference for both the dads and the kids, we have rebuilt him, joining us on our first episode of the new series to talk about the Indian gore actioner kill is your old pal and mine. It's Mr. Matthew Highton, Esquire.
What a lovely introduction that was. Thank you, Simon. Lovely to be back. Lovely to be here. This is nice.
Remember when we did this podcast?
Yeah, I remember.
It used to be me and you.
It did, and then I had a child.
Oh,
It
boy.
was difficult.
And it's so weird that, like, doing a podcast that not that many people listen to doesn't get the sort of priority it deserves on that scale.
Blame the family, man. I tried to get here.
You were like, look, wife, that's what you call her, right? Look,
Yeah.
wife, I just need to watch this 3-hour Hindi movie, and then I need to talk about it for a minimum 1 hour with Simon. Then I need to have probably a preamble of 30 minutes to catch up with him before. All I need is half a day every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Is that too much to ask?
To be fair, I have a lovely little window for watching films. It's the recording, because at the moment he's at his grandma's, so I can be loud. But if I'm loud when he's sleeping,
forget it.
This is what every action fan wants to hear, isn't it? Because action fans are used to, the repercussions of someone taking a child, but they're not used to the actual day-to-day of looking after a child.
That's right.
Yeah. I know I'd do if my child was taken, but do I really factor in the naps and the nappies and the rest of it?
I have a very specialist set of skills. I can set up a Riverside studio. I can export those files into Adobe Audition, and I can edit them tightly into a neat 1 hour long package and upload it to a podcast. Does that get you any closer to retrieving the kidnapped child? It doesn't. No, useless. Absolutely useless in that situation, it turns out.
We have some client feedback for you, and we've got a few changes to the
couple
the
of script notes. He just makes a podcast. In fairness, in this day and age, that would be commission times 12 for Netflix, I would say. The podcast that gets the child back. We'd probably workshop the titles, but
I'm sure there's a million true crime podcasts turns into true crime. I think that is now a genre.
100%.
Yeah.
Hey, what's quite exciting though is that not that your child is away, but the knock-on effect of that is, had I spoken to you prior to this week, you would have said, I haven't seen a movie in a year, Simon. All I've done is clean up projectile poop and vomit. But now you've only done that for your own projectile poop and vomit, whilst you've been catching up on movies.
Yeah, I have been hitting it hard.
Give me a quick couple of top hits of things that are on your radar of late.
This week, and a lot of this relies on streamers, but I managed to get to the cinema a few times this month, so I have seen Beetlejuice, and Romulus.
Oh boy, okay. I've seen neither.
I loved Beetlejuice, to the point where I want to watch them back to back, because I'm suspicious I might enjoy the second one more than the first one.
Hey, quick question. If you say it 3 times, but in 2 separate instances like you just did.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the law on that. I think it's...
Let's keep it to max
intent.
2 at a time.
Yeah, we don't have time for that.
Okay.
Romulus was great.
This is the Alien sequel.
I say that, but the third act really upset me. But
no.
We don't have time to go into it. But it's up there right in the middle of the Alien franchise. Maybe on par or slightly above Alien 3.
Are we taking into account the prequels,
the Prometheuses and all those
Prometheus.
crap bags? Yeah. Oh, I got banned from talking about Prometheus at home. So
In that
let's
case,
not get-
immediate ban on the podcast. Immediate ban.
Let's not go into it. But other things I've seen that I really enjoyed. A little bit back in the year, finally caught up for podcast relevant stuff. June 2, Furiosa, caught up on those, which were great. Really
Haven't seen
good.
Furiosa yet.
Lovely,
Yeah.
great. Some
Interesting.
very fun choices as well. And again, like the last Mad Max, just adrenaline start to finish.
Yeah,
Doesn't take the foot off
I
the
really
gas.
need to revisit Fury Road because so many people
brilliant.
just eulogize about it. And I remember seeing it in the cinema and being like, yeah, I think I seem to recall liking it, but maybe not being like, oh my cripes.
It's one of those. Not much happens. They drive to a place and drive back, but every frame is a painting. Like
Yeah.
there's a really good series of video essays on it on YouTube, and one of them about how Frank it's Frank Miller, is it? No, it's not Frank Miller, is it? Is it Frank Miller?
No,
It's one of the
doesn't
Millers.
Frank Miller write
The comics, yeah. It's oh my god, back to form. This is
Derek
where
Miller? Chris Miller.
Chris. I went to school with a Chris Miller, lovely guy.
I've Googled.
Fuck my brain.
Who?
I'd like to say this is George Miller.
George Miller.
I got so excited I heard myself back through your headphones. Yeah,
Goodness.
I knew it was a Miller. But yeah, about how he does centre framing and how all the action happens in the centre frame. It's very interesting. But if you are an action fan who's also a fan of the filmmaking side of it, it's a very good essay. Very good essay how he tries to land everything in the centre frame, nothing on the peripherals, and it just keeps your eye focused. Very good.
Love
Other things
that.
I saw. I finally watched Iron Claw, which was
I haven't
so
seen that either.
emotional.
Oh my goodness.
So watch Monkey Man.
Good. Yes, I have seen that and will be talking about it on an upcoming episode.
Well, I am available to talk about it because I really enjoyed that.
Okay, but after next week, you're not available. So we're going to have to squeeze it in.
around naps. I've watched The Boy and the Heron this week. I watched Hundreds of Beavers this week,
I've
which
heard
is
of
incredible.
it. I haven't seen it.
So the director, I stumbled on one of his films ages ago, the Lake Michigan Monster, and his directing style is incredible. It's just like he clearly does a lot of composite shots and a lot of action, but he films it, he edits it, he does the VFX himself. With Hundreds of Beavers, it's like a level up. The only way I can describe it is like watching a live action Looney Tunes with some video game elements in. It's just a technical masterpiece done for 150,000 give or take, and shot during the pandemic. I don't think there's really a proper line of dialogue in. It's all very slapstick.
I got to watch it.
The creativity in it, like some of the visual gags are just sublime. There's one gag that made me literally spit take what I was drinking and go back to rewind it, to film it, to send it to someone and go, this gag is brilliant.
I never laugh out loud at anything anymore, so I need this. I need this in my life.
It's just it's something else. It's just one of those things now as well. Like I think he's been plugging away for a while, just making stuff. Like almost feels like he's just making stuff with friends.
Yeah.
And Hundreds of Beavers
Know
was
how that feels.
clearly a step up.
Yeah.
And then just due to, I was reading something the other day. I think they were trying to get distribution, but were struggling, so they took it on the road, sort of touring it at cinemas. But they still did an almost vaudeville style show where they do an intro and do a talk at the beginning. They were wrestling people in beaver costumes, like really dumb stuff.
Classic film promotion.
Yeah. Got a little bit of heat off the back of that, and then got a little cult following. Got some really huge fans, and then distribution. Now it's on streaming, and again.
Nice.
It's one of those films where I'm like, it will eventually be on streaming for free, but I'd say get it now, pay a couple of dollars, pounds, whatever your currency is, and just, give them.
I've literally written a note with a pen in a notebook. Remember that? To watch that.
Yeah,
that's
my
lovely.
big one. Have you watched anything nice?
I was just having a quick flick through my Letterboxd, which I'm still doing a note you're not for the
I need to update mine. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the best thing I've seen recently, and it's pod adjacent, but not, I wouldn't call it full action movie, so I won't do an episode on it. A movie on Netflix called Rebel Ridge. Have you heard of this?
I keep going to watch this and then just not.
I watched it completely blind, knew nothing about it, but it turns out it's from the guy who directed Green Room and Blue Ruin. Don't know if you've seen those movies. Both excellent, really sort of dark, noir-y, ultra-violent in parts.
Yeah.
This is like the opposite of that. It's like a pressure cooker cop thriller, just really well played out. Really enjoyed it. That comes with a high recommend. What else have I seen? I saw The Creator finally recently.
I love The Creator.
I really liked a lot.
Could lose about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was definitely a bit long. I thought the sort of, I guess like the craft of it was incredible, and I really loved the vibe and the special effects. But for some reason, it just didn't like sort of grip me on like an emotional level. You know, I don't know why that was. It felt a bit hollow.
I need to rewatch it. I watched it at the cinema, and again, it's such a like visual treat. Like,
yes,
it's Gareth Edwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's so good. Like at crafting story around visual effects.
Yeah.
That it did. I really enjoyed it, and I want to give it another watch because I think there's stuff that I missed and didn't pick up on. But I mean, he's always been brilliant. I've loved him since Monsters. Like,
yeah, I haven't seen that.
It's just again for fans of indie film, like. Read up on how they shot that. They basically
it's mental, isn't it?
Guerrillaed it, and just anywhere they found that looks a bit apocalyptic.
And then he just put the VFX on after. There's no like planning on the set. It's just like I'll just put it on. Don't worry, I'm pretty good at this. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean it's probably still filming on DV around that time, so it's probably like film into or you know it's cutting edge.
Yeah,
it still looks incredible.
I saw Trap. Have you seen that? The new M. Night Shyamalan?
No, I've seen the trailer so many times. I feel like I've seen everything in that film.
I haven't seen a bunch of his stuff in between, you know, what some might call the good ones. I've read so much about it, and so many people have like loved it, and I'm just like, I just don't get what he's doing. If it's meant to be funny, it's not funny enough. And if it's like meant to be thrilling, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And I do think it knows it's ridiculous, but it wasn't for me. Anyway, that's all.
Yeah. My big thing with that film, just off the trailer.
But the trailer is what hooked me. I was like, actually, that does look like it's a good conceit.
The conceit is great, but the thing that threw me out of the film instantly is it's Josh Hartnett, isn't it? When he goes to the snack stand or whatever and goes, hey, why are all these police and cameras? If I was that guy on the snack stand who's been briefed why he's there, going, one of these guys is a killer, we go,
don't tell anyone.
Well, why is the guy who's asking about the police and cameras, who's aware of that stuff?
Right.
He's the last person I'm telling. I'm like,
so the whole movie is full of things like that. And so at some point, you just have to be like, he knows what he's doing. It's like Arch or something. But for me, I was just like, this is mental. I don't. Anywho, and I saw one other that I imagine you will have seen, but maybe you haven't. Long Legs.
Still not watched it. On a list, but still not watched it.
Interesting.
Heard mixed things. Mixed things.
Not for me. I think I enjoyed about half of it, and then I was like, what is this now? What is this now? That's all. But I think you might quite like it because it's quite
I do like
quirky,
horror, so.
And it's a very singular vision.
Okay.
But yeah, it was and then Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that.
So that's it. I think that's about the and that is what I did on my summer holidays. Saw lots of other stuff in there that was of varying degrees of good. The Accountant, Ben Affleck, finally watched that. Quite liked it.
Oh, yeah.
Kalki, 2080, 98 AD. Quite liked that. Yeah, just some other random stuff like Eat, Pray, Love.
Of course. Why not?
Didn't love it. Okay, I think that's enough. Preamble. We got a big hitter to open this up. Matthew, do you remember what we do now? We hold hands and we walk through the quite heavy UCI cinema doors. Is UCI cinema still a thing? I don't think so.
I've never heard of it, so let's say no.
Odeon, for where you are, which we haven't even reminded or even told the new listener, Matt Highton, London, Simon Fielder, Mumbai, India. I'm watching things in the PVR cinema. And that is where I saw our feature presentation.
And now, our feature presentation.
Dodge this.
All right, Matt, here we are. We're nestled. You're in the Odeon, or actually just at home, sadly, watching this on digital rental. I did see this in a very posh PVR where you could genuinely order pasta to your seat.
Wow.
Which is one thing that I think is incredible about Indian cinemas. I did not order pasta to my seat. And in a way, I'm quite glad, because I think this is not a movie you should be eating your dinner while you're watching.
It's not a pasta movie.
The movie is a Hindi language, full bore action. Some might even call it horror at times. It's called simply Kill. It is directed by Nikhil Bhatt. It stars Lakshya and Raghav Juyal. Matthew, as is tradition and was tradition, and even in your absence, I force people to do this, and they haven't got the practice that you have for doing it. Give us the Sight and Sound magazine. Does it still exist? I don't think so, but I think Kim Newman does still write care of Sight and Sound on the BFI website, which I found out today because he reviewed this movie. Give us the synopsis, non-spoiler synopsis of Kill.
Okay, so it is a film about essentially two commandos, but one commando who is in love with a woman who is betrothed to someone else due to her family being quite rich and stuff. So it's essentially starts as a tale of love, two lovers who cannot be together but dream and plan on running away.
Oh, it sounds lovely so far.
It is lovely. It's a very nice 10 minutes of just breathing you get. Cut to, she is getting on a train with her family. For some reason, him and his friend decide to get the same train. I'm still not sure why. And assumably at the end of this train journey, they will abscond and disappear and elope. Plot twist. A gang of about 40 thieves in the worst jumpers I've seen on cinema in a long time decide to heist the train, and by heist I mean just rob the people on it and of their goods and belongings, discover that the woman's dad is a rich transport mogul, decide that this could be the cash payday that they've been dreaming of, and instead of just doing that in a nice way, they go cuckoo bananas and start chopping people up left, right and centre. Unknown to them, two commandos get in their way. Thus begins what I would describe as 90 minutes non-stop, adrenaline-packed, bloodbath material. Spoilers to come.
Put that on your poster. Adrenaline-packed bloodbath material is a good quote. If the listenership of this goes up a bit, you could have that on a poster at Leicester Square Tube Station.
Thank you. I'll put it up.
If you just print it out on a dot matrix printer and then print stick it across the poster for a movie that is no longer in cinemas in the UK. Yeah, that is a great sum up. Where to start? I think what stands out. We've spoken about some Bollywood actioners on this show before, and by and large, they sort of fit a certain template, right? We've talked about War, we've talked about Tiger 3, we've talked about RRR, not Bollywood, but Tollywood, still, Indian cinema. And the more that I've watched and you've watched and everyone who's been on has watched, the more any person watches of a country's cinema, you see the tropes and you see how things are done. And action is sort of, I don't want to say in every movie, but traditionally in big blockbuster masala movies, action is portrayed in one way, this very sort of glamorous, like hero shots, people doing things in slow-mo, just like things looking really impressive and incredible. And what hasn't up until now that I've seen in my quite limited purview, but as far as I'm aware, what we haven't seen from Indian cinema is this very visceral, up close, to sell it quickly. The Raid inspired, John Wick inspired, close quarters. And while Indian cinema is quite happy to show violence, but will, for example, bleep the swear words in Bad Boys for Life, which I saw in the cinema, but I did not hear them say motherfucker or cocksucker.
They actually don't. They beat themselves. That's just the release.
There's no boobies, there's no big swears, but even in quote unquote movies for the family, you're allowed to see people being like stabbed quite a lot. But at this level of stabbing and brutality is very rarely seen.
Yeah.
What I would describe as a horror movie, almost gore-like level. Like you would compare it to
it's visceral.
Korean
It's
revenge
visceral.
cinema. The Night Comes for Us, like that level of gag.
Yeah. It was intense. It was intense.
That's where I want to start. So this is like a sort of like watershed moment for Indian cinema, I think, in that regard.
I think was it God, I'm casting back now to must be 2021. Was it Sanak we watched?
Sanak, the hospital,
I think
Die Hard in a Hospital.
I think that's the closest.
Yes, because that was a very genreified action movie, wasn't it?
But that focused a lot on martial arts, whereas this, whilst it's got some incredible martial arts in, they just wanted it to be brutal. They're like, and not brutal in a like say in a Hollywood like Saw style, that sort of gore where they're gonna lavish and revel in sort of the blood. The blood is there because if you do this, consequences. Like there's some real like, it doesn't feel like they've. What's beautiful about this film, which if you told me this was it's basically Under Siege 2.
Let the record state 20 minutes in when Under Siege 2 got mentioned.
But like the thing about a film, this film, the first 10 minutes is very much they're setting up the emotional drive, and it is a bit sort of like, fine, I don't really care.
It's very Bollywood, isn't it? It's like, as much as it, and this is, I think, the movie as a whole, and we'll talk about more about this later, but like it doesn't shy away from over like melodrama in that sort of Bollywood blockbuster way.
Amps it up, like to the point where you're like, oh, this is a bit sort of blah, blah. But don't worry, they have some sour for that sweetness. But like they get on the whole film is essentially, you get 10 minutes, 15 minutes of sort of setup, and then they get on the train, and this film clocks in at about an hour 40. They get on the train and very quickly get to the action. Once they're on there, it goes. But once the action goes, it doesn't stop. And if you said to me they can't sustain what is probably about an hour and 10 minutes of just non-stop, essentially 4 carriages worth of violence, I'd be like, this is going to get old really quick. But it's so tense. It's like close to a thriller. It never lets up. And like the things that you think would happen in certain spots don't happen. The things that you hope don't happen do happen. Like there's so much in this where they're like, they're not trying to be nice to the people you care about. They don't want these people to do anything but what actually happens to them. So like there is a case of like, you get in the villains, you get maybe 4 characters that stand out above a background of very sort of generic bad
jumpers.
Guys. Yeah, they are very much jumpers. But those generic bad guys aren't, it's not like, well, I understand now this guy's had this conversation with this guy, so they're going to face off. Well, you get an element of that. Anyone who is in that gang can and will do damage. You don't know who's going to hit where. You don't know who's going to get thrown into the mix. There is collateral in the form of passengers. There is collateral in the form of family. There is stakes in the form of family. But what they do better than any other film I have seen is they play that, oh my God, this guy is so good, this commando, and he is fucked up our plan so royally, like gone on a murder spree. What they do is they start to implement a layer of fear into the gang, but also give a really beautiful mechanism that means they have to see this thing through to the end. So they can't just jump, they can't run away. But what happens is they start to view this guy as a monster, and you see this level of fear, like pierce them and sort of spread and sort of get more and more overcome as he becomes more rageful and vengeful for reasons of plot. And it's a really good turn in that sort of middle where you go, okay, this has gone from save the day to I am going to kill every one of you. And it's a really I think The Raid is a really good reference point for this sort of, they find a scenario to put these people in and go, you are fucked.
Yeah.
Get out.
And I think if you go into this movie blind, which I think is tough now, but I just told you this is good, you should watch it, right? And then you watched it. And I went in having heard, oh, this is like a really bloody action movie. But it has, I mean, can we do spoilers? Not major spoilers, okay, but some spoilers. Because it as you say, sets up the stakes and the characters and does this sort of lovey-dovey, soft focus Bollywood stuff at the beginning. And then, the action kicks off. And then you're like, yeah, okay, all right, okay. So far, pretty fine, yep. And then it's not till 45 minutes in, there is the turn, right? Yeah. There is a moment.
And the title.
The title card drops. And this is, I think, the best title card drop since RRR.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I saw this in a not full cinema, and a posh cinema. So it wasn't just full of people throwing confetti all in the TikToks and social media videos during RRR. It was just couples and stuff. But there were people cheering and whistling in this. Yeah, I was saying I saw this in, half full cinema, and a nice time during the day, because that's when I like to go to the cinema. But there were people whistling at parts of this movie, and I can't remember if the interval came exactly after the title card, because when I watched it back again on streaming, there was no interval and it didn't say intermission on the screen. But I think maybe the interval, they still have intervals in 1 hour 45 minute movies. I think it was title card interval, and I was just oh shit, yeah. And I know how, in hindsight, I guess it is some might call cliched trope of action movies. And this is a spoiler, so don't listen for the next 10 seconds while I say this word, which is called fridging. Are you aware of this?
No.
So it's when you, mega spoiler happening now, when you kill off the wife, the girlfriend, the kid, whatever, it's fridging the wife, fridging the girlfriend. So it's, a thing that I guess probably happened in 80s and 90s movies a lot, where it was they killed his wife, now they have to deal with everything he has left. But I honestly, when I was in the cinema, I was that bit was just, I was just it's so fucking emotional. And while the emotion at the beginning felt cheesy, somehow this bit of emotion fully got me, because I just did not see that coming.
Yeah, I didn't either. Certainly not how they did it in there.
Yeah. It sort of just comes from nowhere. I mean, I guess if you go in with a movie brain and you're just well, given the first 10 minutes of this movie, what would be the thing that would make the stakes right through the roof? But it just didn't occur to me. And then that turn comes and you go from, oh, he's a commando and he's, punching a few people. And then it becomes the title of the movie. And while you might be it's a bit of a cheesy title, it could not be a better title for how it appears on the screen, of everything that happens after it.
It's that thing, isn't it, in that twisted sort of, there are no heroes, there's only points of view sort of thing. But with this, they have him fight for something, and then they take everything away. And you do that thing where he's you see it in it. He goes, I don't care if I get off this train. I am just gonna murder my way through them.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting thing as well. There's a difference in the way he fights. He suddenly goes from sort of defender to killer.
Yeah, it
And
like,
it's-
turns into an animal.
Yeah. So that in itself, like from a sort of whoever choreographed and directed this, the way he suddenly moves and the way he sort of takes no prisoners, going from not that he's taking prisoners, but he is just trying to, survive and stop these
Subdue
guys.
people at the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it's just something else. It's something else. It's just, and it is, again, it's non-stop. And you
Yeah.
should be able to sustain that for maybe 20, 30 good minutes. But it just has the right rhythm of the film
Yeah.
to keep you hooked, to keep you going, okay, they're going up the carriage, they're going down the carriage.
Yeah.
They're now stopped there, they have a little, and they go up the carriage. And it should be like really dull. It should be like, oh yeah,
And they
I
don't.
get it, it's
They
fine.
once they're on the train, like
Yeah.
the whole movie is on the train.
Yeah.
And you're never like, hope they get to like a new location soon. So
Yeah.
there's like some new stuff. But I think that speaks volumes to like the production design and the way it's shot, because somehow, at the beginning it's like brightly lit fluoro lights, and then I think like as the movie goes on and it gets like literally and figuratively darker, and
Yeah.
then there's parts of it where it's literally a horror film. Like he's like turns into like Jason Voorhees, There's a bit where he just like suspends the bodies of people he's killed from the top bunks of a train carriage, so they're all hung up, and it's like a horror movie image.
I think that's why this film elevates itself in terms of like going from just an action, like Gorno style violent film. There's a psychology to it, like, and there's a punishment to it that he clearly wants to inflict. That like, because that is the thing with these thieves as well. The thieves are essentially, they're not slick. They're not Hans Gruber and his mob. They're not like suited up and stuff. They are just one of the characters says it. We are just thieves. They're
Right.
just there to rob. One of them, it's got that beautiful dynamic. Is the son of the main guy, and so there's you do things this way. We should do it this way. So there's a conflict of interest and some sort of tension there. But the way that they view each other as family, like, if you shot this film from their point of view, like where they're playing this heist and they're getting in, you would get on their side, and then you'd be like, "Who the fuck is this monster stopping them?" Even though the thieves are horrible, especially like a select few of them, there is a thing that they do really well, which they don't make them sort of streaks of rage bad guys. They're not just like walking up, bopping in with a pole. Everyone is affected by the actions on this train, and it is in its twist the start of that movie, and it is a heist gone wrong film. Like that's what it is. So like you do get that play out as well.
And there is no more crying over deaths in any other movie I've seen than this. Like the repercussions of people being killed are just felt so much. You never see like, aside from, it's interesting that you mentioned Hans Gruber and Die Hard, because if you imagine the when McClane kills the guy and writes like ho ho ho, now I have a machine gun, and then the long-haired like chief henchman, it's his brother, right? So he like hears about his brother and he smashes everything up and he's like, I'm gonna kill McClane. Whereas all of the thieves are like related in that sort of Indian cousins way, right? Some of them are like father, son, and then everyone else is like someone's cousin. So every time someone dies and the news like reaches back to where the bad guys are, someone's like grieving and distraught.
Yeah.
And it's like so rare to see that. And then it sort of goes both ways, because then when like, innocent people get killed, their families are there and like grieving, and like some of that plays out later on in the movie.
Yeah, it's great. Carl. Let's try and think what the Die Hard guy is called.
And just like your eyes just like disappeared into your head like a slot machine, like ding, 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 ding. Carl, he's back, and he's back on. He hasn't heard anything I said since
I
Die
was listening, and I agree. But again, the stuff where you say about families and stuff that are not on either side of this conflict, that are just incidentals. again, the way they're woven in, again, it's like, it's very real world. It's very sort of like, it's just very well done. I think like we could talk about how well done this is for ages, but I think the only other element you have to really talk about is something we've not talked about yet, is the choreography of it is very good as well.
Yes.
So it's not Hong Kong action levels of like, this is slick fighting, but in the same way that the fighting feels very brutal and very real, and there are some very cool little moments. Like this guy can do a little fly kick every now and then, and you're just like, that is a fucking
Every now and then.
badass move. Yeah.
Just wang it in, mate.
Yeah, it just do a little flurry.
Yeah.
But again, they've really thought about the space. I always remember this from what's the film where they fight in a lift and they use elbows? It's either a Bond or a Bourne film.
Oh, there's quite a lot of fights in lifts. Gosh.
But it was one of those things where
Great one in Farang recently, but I don't think.
Long story short, there's a fight scene in a film, and they don't punch; they use their elbows. And
okay.
It's
God, I want to get this now, but I don't. I'm nowhere close.
If I haven't got it by the end of the podcast, I'll Google it and find it.
Okay.
But it was a moment in a film where I remember watching it, and I remember thinking, this is a guy who's trained, and they've thought, how would this guy fight in this space? They've not gone for a full punchy punch. They've gone in that Hong Kong way of going, the environment has its own effects on the fight.
Yeah.
With this, they've clearly thought, how wide is this train? How long is this train? To the point where they've probably also done this for filming parameters and stuff. They've locked off areas. So you've got this stretch of maybe 2 to 4 carriages at times. But you've got this constant stream of action. They eliminate guns in a very good way. They basically say, oh, guns are shit, and they take them out of the action.
Yeah.
So you've got knives, you've got bludgeoning, and you've got fists. And all those
bludgeoning and
things
knives
are going to come into play, and it's going to affect the fight. And they've really, I'd love to see how long they've drilled this. How they broke it down to either sections, or how they've broken it down into like, we're going to choreograph this level, because it's almost like a one shot in certain ways. It's like they've planned through the route, and they've planned every fight along the way, and they've decided this is where he's going to be like an unstoppable hero, this is where he's going to get hit, and fuck me, does he get hit. I'd love to count how many times he's stabbed.
Oh, I mean, yeah, if you're going to be Mr. Nitpicks, you'd be like, I feel like he might have died. Yeah, it's funny that you said he's going to go to this level, because it is like they could have made it a video game and each carriage is just a different level, and in a way he should have probably died several times in this movie. The amount he's stabbed and wanged over the head.
Well, his friend, they sort of take him out of the action from being brutally stabbed, whereas
early,
which is like an interesting thing as well, because that gives it again another dynamic to the film. It brings another dynamic. So there's they obviously thought this out, but there is that is probably its only element that it had to do. It's like, this guy can't not get hit.
Yeah.
And this guy certain times needs to be out of it. But how many times and what? And that's, again, the thing that they do well is they conceal that. It's like a magic trick.
Yeah.
So you're seeing it happening, but you're also like, yeah, he got it for this reason. Adrenaline's pulling through for this reason.
Yeah.
And
they do a very good job of like, you watch him sort of like beat up a whole load of guys and you're like, oh, great. He's just like, he's an unstoppable hard nut. So and then immediately they're like, let's introduce the really big guy who's like actually quite a tough adversary for him and really beats the shit out of him a little bit. They really it's very well sort of crafted and plotted such that he's not Steven Seagal just burning through like 40 people in no time.
Some sort of action star has gone, actually, I can't be hurt. That's part of my contract.
He's not Jason Statham being like, no one's punching me in the face anymore. Cheers.
Yeah. There's a bit where, so there is like, again, you'll be watching this, but there is like the guy who is the muscle for the thieves, and he is the muscle. Like,
he's a big lad.
The way he's a dirty sort of like, he is strength over any skill. But there's a bit where they are strangling each other. And it was almost giving me my action replay, because I was on my own. It's about 9:30, 10 at night, just in the lounge. Big guy strangling our boy. he starts strangling back, and I instantly go, "No, eyes, eyes!" And just like, why did they just gouge this guy's eyes out? I got really like visceral and sort of almost like survival mode about it. Like, what would I do in this situation? Because there's no way you can get out of this.
He's a trained commando. He must be told go directly for the eyes. Oddly, he doesn't, does he? He simply snaps his fingers in a horrifically brutal way.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I mean, the action director on this is a guy who I will now mispronounce, Se Yong-oh, who is a Korean guy who has worked on a bunch of stuff like Snowpiercer and a couple of other Bollywood movies. I think
I was going to
mention
one
of them, in fact.
Snowpiercer, because
that's on a train, isn't it? Get the train guy.
But the Snowpiercer is an interesting one in itself. Also, obviously set on a train, but it's a very different sort of progression. That's almost like a video game where every carriage is a level.
True.
And so on and so forth. But again, very creative way to film a film. Like, they've clearly planned it out, thought it through. Because once you're limited on space, and this is the thing about it. Like, I always think in technicals. Being confined to an area is one thing. Like, so if you're set, like The Raid is set in a building for the most of it, Die Hard is set in the Nakatomi Plaza, but you've got space. Whereas this, you've got such a narrow thing.
It's
and
so tiny.
What's the last year film? Bullet Train.
Mm-hmm.
Bullet Train is quite a wide, open train.
True.
Whereas this is
yeah.
a very one person is kind of confined just walking down the train.
This movie is like the opposite of Bullet Train.
Yeah, it very much is. What this film needed is every character to have a freeze frame with their name.
And be really like arch and jokey about everything.
Yeah. I like Bullet Train.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I remember.
But even with Bullet Train, they had to get off the train to do the finale, right?
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
in this, they're not getting off that.
Yeah.
They ain't getting off that shit, mate.
Have you, there's two things I want to bring up, but one, before we get onto that, is have you looked at the budget of this? Because I've not.
No.
I'd be interested to know, because again.
Tough to track down.
Yeah.
But also, it's, we're talking Indian level budgets. So it will be so much less than you think. It's extraordinary what they can do with the money here.
I'm always interested in films that have made creative choices for a reason, but rolling on from that, the reason they made this creative choice, which you only brought to my attention maybe 2 hours ago, is and I can't stop now, it's blown my mind. This is based on a real story.
Yes.
So
insane.
That is in itself a good reason to think it, but at no point they say based on real events or anything like that.
I think it's like inspired by. There's not.
Yeah, I mean,
in the true story, the guy didn't like kill 40 people, but
he killed 3, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
That. Yeah, and he became a hero and heavily decorated.
Yeah. It is mad, but you see, like the to speak to budget and stuff. It's produced by Dharma Productions, who are like quite a big production company. So it's definitely not like a sort of indie scraping by zero budget kind of thing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that.
Some of the sort of behind the scenes things. So they like built the whole train, or like 3 carriages of the train, and the walls like moved out and moved around so that the cameras could get in and out and they could sort of shoot 360 and stuff. So it's by no means like a low budget movie.
Yeah.
But I think it does have a lot in common with that. It has that level of sort of scrappiness, and I mean that in like a good way. It's like we're limited by the train, so what are all the things we can do on a train? Someone's got to go on the roof at some point, right? Maybe we don't have a whole fight on the roof. Maybe the budget doesn't stretch to a fight on the roof, but we can green screen somebody walking along the roof.
Which is still, I'm sure there must be a Mythbusters on this or something. I still always wonder about the actual real life physics of walking on a train.
I bet Tom Cruise has done it, hasn't he?
Oh,
actually, they did. In fact, for Dead Reckoning, is it Dead Reckoning? I think so. They shot. Isn't there like a knife fight on top of a train? They shot that on top of a real train. Yeah. You can do it.
Train sequences are back. Dead Reckoning did it wasn't RRR. What was the Bollywood one we watched that was ridiculous? Where they had a whole helicopter.
Oh, Patan has a train. Very good train sequence.
Ridiculous train sequence.
Yeah. Maybe they nenever went out of fashion after all. Maybe trains have always been there.
Yeah.
Tony
The
Scott's
train-
Unstoppable. Pretty sure that was in the early 2000s. It could be 20 years ago.
Do you know what? Because it's popular now to take like a childhood IP and then make it adult and gritty. Maybe Thomas the Tank Engine's due
Finally.
like a gritty reboot.
I think Thomas the Tank Engine has never stopped is the thing. Like, we're like, well, that was probably 30 years ago, but I think he's still trucking. He's still
going. I have a thing about
still makes money.
Thomas the Tank Engine, because like all the tank engines are alive, obviously, and all the vehicles. But like Annie and Clarabelle are essentially the human centipede of trains. They're just his carriages.
The carriages.
Forced ass to mouth.
Oh, God.
And I just don't know like how they sustain. Like Thomas obviously survives off coal, but I don't know what they're on. I don't know what they're eating.
Steam.
Yeah, we don't know.
His exhaust.
What a decide.
I want to shout out a couple of things. One, this is quite fascinating to me, and I don't know. I'm trying to kind of think of something analogous with it in Hollywood or elsewhere. That the director of this movie, Nikhil Bhatt, who also wrote it, is not like an action movie guy. He's made a few movies before this, and they are absolutely not action movies. And this movie is such a like deliberate genre action movie. It's so, I find that so fascinating that, and I don't know, I don't want to generalize, but it seems like directors here can be like, I make a comedy and now I'm going to make this action movie and then I'm going to do this. Whereas if you were sort of, I want to say anywhere else in the world almost, and you made this movie, like Gareth Evans made Morantau, then he made The Raid, then he made The Raid 2 because he was like that guy. So A, I'm fascinated to see what he does next. But B, I'm just sort of on a sort of getting to this movie being made. Like it seems such an interesting idea that as someone, maybe, I mean, yeah, he absolutely could just be a massive fan of action movies.
But also it is a thing, like certainly in the Hollywood system, you have to have proven yourself in certain areas to be trusted with that. Because it's
That's
the budget.
true, yeah.
Always comes back to budget with stuff.
Yeah.
But again, like, all depends on your team, doesn't it? Because like, if you've got a good team, someone who is director of choreography, someone who's director of photography, essentially you just need someone who's got a good brain to put it all together and sort of know where to put the focus. Like we've talked about this on old episodes. It's so easy to have the camera ruin an action sequence.
Yeah.
It's so easy to put in something that is so sort of gratuitous that you're like, oh, that's really took me out of the action, like a camera swing or something. In the same way, it's so difficult sometimes to put on a little tiny movement that adds to the action. Like the move I always think of, and I can't remember seeing it pre-millennium, but like when someone does like a pile driver or throw someone on the ground and the camera goes with them and thuds and tilts.
Yeah,
like,
that's very popular, isn't it?
Like that level of camera came from obviously rigs getting lighter weight and handheld becoming smoother. But now you see a lot of that just completely ruins it, like completely does nothing for it. And then you get some that are like the camera becomes so active, it'll spike your adrenaline.
Yeah.
And again,
well, in this, I think that is the case, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
By nature of it being in such a confined thing, like you're right up in it so much of the time.
Yeah. But it's also a masterclass of editing because, again, like some Netflix, I hate saying this because I hate being negative, but like Cowboy Bebop, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I love the anime of Cowboy Bebop, but the live action just felt very stale. And I think what that is just because on the paper, great actors, great premise, shot beautifully, but at the same time, it felt like every now and then, it's that person who knows that edit needs to be a split second this way or that way.
Yeah,
it needs to be like the camera needs to be here, and your eye needs to just without ever thinking about it, follow it. And this film does this brilliantly. Like it really keeps that pace up from start to finish. That pace never drops when the action's on screen.
Yeah,
it never like it understands that the camera mimics the emotion, and that's so crucial to good action. So especially when it's like hand to hand and stuff like that. Like a big Hollywood, it's a lot of explosions and stuff like that, and you just, it's visually you're just blown away. Mad Max we talked about earlier is a great example of that. But the stuff that brings you the difference between a shallow guns and explosions to a, oh my god, that was incredible, is the person who is driving that, is the script, it's the characters.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's no, when you sort of break it down, like a good director should be able to direct any genre, right? If it's like a good story, and as you say, if you have the right team around you, it's just sort of fascinating to me that suddenly you would go, what Bollywood hasn't had yet is a The Raid style. We've never really done that type of action. And in spite of me never having done that before, I would like to make this movie. And then someone went, sounds great, mate. Yeah. Here's the money. Like, get a good cinematographer. We've got this action director from Korea. He's worked on some big other movies here before. And it's just like, yeah, and it turned out great. It's
that's the thing.
It's amazing.
You've got someone who's invested in it, though. To give a Hollywood equivalent of this, like you said, this guy's wrote it and directed it, so he's thought about it from every phase, and that is crucial in stuff like this. Marvel is always an easy comparison because Marvel is no one does it bigger. But seeing someone come into Marvel who has been given something and just makes a very decent Hollywood film. But then you give sort of Deadpool and Wolverine, which is another film I saw recently, managed to get out and see it.
Still
you give that to Ryan Reynolds, who is literally, he's at the script level, he's at the getting it produced level, he is at the choreography. He is in every level of that film because he is passionate about that character and how that is then brought to screen. Marvel has a series of ticks that they need in an MCU film that needs to bleed into the rest of it. But the difference between someone like James Gunn or I can't remember who actually directed Deadpool and Wolverine, but having a team who is like, we are going to be here from point A to point Z. That's the difference. So if someone's come up with this idea and went, I want to make this film, they've not done it because they just want to make a film. They want to tell this story. They want to show this story. And that's where like talent comes in. Like if you gave, who's a good example? Francis Ford Coppola.
Wait, are you saying Deadpool and Wolverine is good?
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Did you not?
Haven't seen it.
I really enjoyed it.
Haven't seen Deadpool 2, and I'm fairly marveled out at this point. So
yeah, but that's the thing. It is a Marvel. I really enjoyed it. I'd put it up there with the best of the Marvels.
Really?
Yeah, just because. But again, you forget like I'm a comic nerd, and what that film does, without too many spoilers. What is very good about it, I think what a lot of the fans responded to was Ryan Reynolds essentially has a love letter to 30 years of Fox films like the X-Men franchise that has gone, the Blade franchise, all the old Daredevil and stuff, all those like comic films that pave way for what the MCU became.
You liked that? The sort of infinite, the cameo conveyor belt, as I've
because it could have just been like a cameo conveyor belt, but he cares about those characters, so he's done it in a very loving way. And that is the thing. If you've got someone who cares about something, they're always going to do a better job than someone who's just there to make something.
Is there a joke about Blade Trinity in it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. I just literally was like, hey, wait a minute, he was in a Blade movie.
There's a Van Wilder joke in it. There's loads. But like,
I'll watch it on streaming.
But again, you're talking about a film, an audience is not a kill audience and stuff like that.
100% no.
But going back to the point of a director, like, there's certain directors who, whatever genre they put their hand to, like Kubrick is the obvious example because his films have so many genres. Like Clockwork Orange is like a thriller, like ultra violent for its time, banned in so many countries. The Shining is his horror.
He never really did a rom-com though, did he?
Well, he did. I mean, Eyes Wide Shut.
Sure, yeah. Good point, actually. Sorry. Take it back.
There's Barry Lyndon, which is a period piece. There's 2001, which is sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like, he's done all types of genres, but because he's Kubrick and because he has such a good eye for stuff, even though he sounds like a monster on set, he makes it work. And that is the thing that I think in this big sort of, we're coming out of a period of the Hollywood machine and coming back towards, I think there's a lot of interesting indie stuff coming out at the moment. I think that's partially due to the backlog of the writer's strike and stuff. But we are coming down to like where technology is in people's pockets. So like filmmaking can be done on any level now. So what you need really good auteurs, really good creatives who are like, I don't want to be in a world where this film doesn't exist. And yes, sometimes that film is the most violent, disturbing thing set on a train. But it is creative people, good filmmakers will always produce something better than someone who's just there to get paid.
100%, yeah. And I think that's my question is like, which came first? The let's make this a absolutely brutal thing because we've never done it chicken, or the I'd really like to tell this story based on a true story of a commando on a train egg?
That's the other side. They've took that true story and they have twisted it into something ultra violent. So that is,
but the selling point of the movie is let's make it ultra violent. We don't do this in India, right?
Yeah.
So I sort of wonder if that's like if that comes from like a producer level where they're like, we want an action movie. Okay. Oh, hey, you've got an idea for one. Okay. Hey, what about if it's the most violent action movie India's ever seen? I'm listening. You know, like I'm just sort of intrigued about the mechanics of that for some reason.
Like, I mean, I'd love to be in those rooms.
I'm constantly fascinated by the behind the scenes that we very rarely get to hear about.
But also, like, they've done that and they've done it well. They've not done it to a sort of Sam Raimi levels of blood spurts everywhere. They've kept it very visceral and very real. Yeah. And like, just to go back as well, I just want to say no one goes out to make a bad film. Like, it's so hard filmmaking.
I know, we say this so often.
I always want to say this because any film that gets to a screen is already a win.
Yeah.
It's already won. And there's so many factors. But there are also so many decisions, like you say, like, when was that? Like, because there are kills and bits of violence in this where, and I think I text you something straight away. I was like, "Fucking hell, that's brutal." I came out quite, and I've watched so much violent stuff and so much sort of bloody
horror
stuff, but something about this film tapped into something else that was really like, and I have been more sensitive since I've been a dad. That is 100% a thing.
Beautiful.
Bawling my eyes out at the end of Iron Claw, Jesus. But yeah, there's something really like it tapped into something very, very like primal, and I felt very like for a while after it, like fucking hell, oh god, like really like I'd witnessed something atrocious.
Yeah, it does try. I think it does speak to that in the movie as well, right? It's very much like, as much as it, 1 minute it's like you cheer at this guy having his literal skull caved in, and then it's like the next scene is like his brother weeping, you know, and then towards the end of the movie, the bad guy, he's called Fanny. I mean, that's could be fun in a way. Played by Raghav Juyal, who I found out today is chiefly known as a dancer. This is his like breakout role. So I think he's great in this. He really nails
he's the standout part in this.
The sort of, how do you describe that sort of insouciant bad guy who's just like a little bit overconfident and
arrogant.
Slimy. Yeah. Or a really hateful figure. But towards the end of this movie where he sort of knows he's losing, he like says, "Who kills like this? I killed 4 people on a train. You've killed 36 of my family. You're an animal." And it's like writ large. Here is the message of the movie. Who is the real bad guy now? Look at yourselves. Why are you enjoying this movie? You know?
Yeah. But again, with a little bit of reframing, it's a completely different film. Like I said before, if they come into this with like, there's this family, this gang, they're essentially thieves, they come from poverty and stuff. This is what they have to do to survive, showing a bit of family life, and then come to that train. And then it's a completely different spin, which again is so hard to balance that. So hard.
You rarely see that in a movie, do you? I mean, you do see movies about heists and stuff, but I've never seen a movie where it starts off about the bad guys and then suddenly it's about the as I'm saying it, my like mental Rolodex is going, and then it becomes about the John McClane character. That would be an interesting movie. Would it or would it?
But that's the thing. Like Star Wars, from Darth Vader's point of view.
Yeah,
is
yeah, exactly.
Terrorism.
Right.
Terrorism
It's true.
in admittedly a very horrible regime. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like every point of view is so important in a film. But like point of view where you can imprint something and change that point of view onto your audience without it being heavy-handed is very difficult.
Yeah.
This film falls into a really rare bracket for me of something that I very much enjoyed and I very much would recommend to people, but I probably will never watch this film again.
Wow.
Because it's already done to me what it needs to do. Like this, I don't need to go back and see these people die again. Like it really hits something.
Wow,
And I'm like,
okay.
And in 20 years, if you want me to talk about this film again, I think I'll be able to recount it just as well.
It's etched in your mind.
Yeah, it's up there with Prometheus. In a very different way. In a very different way.
Yeah. Well, I will say I watched it in the cinema like I guess a month or two ago. Yeah, probably a couple of months ago, and then I watched it again yesterday on streaming. And yeah, it didn't. I think the first time is like anything, like it hits the hardest. Seeing it in a cinema, like I think I might have given this 5 stars on Letterboxd just for the experience of. I don't remember a cinematic experience that got me that like riled up since like John Wick 4 or RRR before it. Watching it again at home, I didn't have the same level of like
because you know it's coming though.
Exactly,
you can't
exactly.
You can't.
But I mean, yeah, I can't retrospectively recommend everyone sees it in the cinema, but I definitely think if you're a fan of action movies, I would say movies generally, but I think it's too much for a lot of people.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of action movies, and if you love like Korean revenge, stabby dramas, The Night Comes for Us, that sort of thing, this is going to be right up your cul-de-sac. Before we go, Matthew, it might be a new series, but we've got a few old habits that die hard.
Movie title.
Thank you. He said the title of the movie in the movie. Before we go, we need your action replay moment.
So there's a lot of action replays in this, but again, action replays for me is normally something that I revel in. And I'm like, my God, they did that well.
You've already established you will not watch this film again, so there is no literal action replaying.
But there's just things where I'm just like, but the one that stuck in... So there's things that have just lodged in my head forever now. But I think the toilet kill is probably...
The toilet kill, love that. In fact, you could just be like either the fire extinguisher kill, toilet kill, second fire extinguisher kill, lighter kill,
second worst fire extinguisher kill I've ever seen in a film, if I'm honest.
That is that's sort of the real he's lost it moment, isn't it? Or he's got it. However you want to.
But again, knowing where to keep the camera and how long to keep the camera and how long to keep that playing out is.
And that is a deliberate decision that like, no, you're gonna watch this and you're gonna be like, am I enjoying this?
Weirdly, one of the only other films that I will never watch again also has a fire extinguisher kill, but much worse. Much worse. Yeah, it's Irreversible.
Irreversible, haven't seen.
It's
very difficult to ever watch that movie, I think.
Oh, sorry. We watched it at university because we were film students.
Sure.
And yeah, that never was put on again. Just
oh no.
Three lads in their 20s just sat silent for about 3 hours afterward. A really horrible.
It put me in mind of Drive, actually. You said toilet. Because there's unpleasant skulls being crushed. Also, what is it called? Brawl in Cell Block 99.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yes,
that also has a lot of horrific kills in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep mine simple. It's when the title card drop.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what I'll choose as my action replay, because even when I watched it again yesterday, I was like welling up at that moment. And then my girlfriend, who was sat looking away from the screen because she cannot watch action movies, least of all this action movie, was like, why are you watching this if it makes you cry? And then like caught a glimpse of the screen and was like, what? Why are you watching this movie? Why would you watch this?
That title card drop is 45 minutes in.
It's absolutely incredible. And I'm pretty sure there was an interval after it, and I just like walked out into the lobby to like use the bathroom or get a snack, and I was just like, this movie is incredible. This movie hasn't even started yet. Has it started? I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it is a solid recommend from me. I think
definitely from me
as an enjoyer of action movies, I think it's great. If you're someone who follows Indian Bollywood cinema, I think it's just a pivot point, a watershed moment, a very interesting, let's see, now that this has happened, let's see if the floodgates are opened. Let's see what else. Let's see what direction action goes in.
Which other horrors are unleashed.
Yeah, exactly. Now we have to have like 10 movies where Shah Rukh Khan is gouging people's eyes out because that's what people are into now. I don't know. Cool. I'm very excited, and I'm very interested to see off the back of this what the director does next.
Yeah,
if he does make an action movie, or yeah.
Something just needs to wash the taste out.
Maybe the antidote.
Yeah.
Matthew, what an absolute treat it's been to have you back on the pod.
It's been lovely to be back, and I will try to come back more throughout the series.
Thank you so much. Where can people find you? I suppose that's where they need what they need, isn't it?
I mean, I am still for my sins active
on
Twitter, but it has become a cesspit. I use Threads a bit more now, but generally just quite chill these days.
Just quite chill. You're just beavering away. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, if something interesting occurs in my life for professionalism, it'll be on Twitter or Threads. And if something nice is happening in my life, it'll be on my Instagram stories. So.
Oh, that's nice. Lovely. Little glimpse into the family man, Matthew Highton. Yeah. Hey, if you want to find the podcast, you can still find that on Twitter, although it just makes me sad going on that website almost every single time because it just feeds you just shit, isn't it? It's just so much shit.
Yeah. Also, just because I can't find it and I can't remember it, but I don't think it's Captain America and the Winter Soldier. But if you can remember if you know the elevator scene I'm talking about where he fights with his elbows, I'm convinced it's a Bourne film.
Is it Kill Box Soon? Did we watch that? That's
we did, but this is like a English language film.
A guy fights with his elbows in
so
an
he's
elevator.
in a lift. And he just does something. You can't see my mime, but I'm miming fighting
Matthew
with
has
my
his
elbows
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
maybe
please,
it's Captain America.
Listener, get in touch. You can at Dodge This Pod on Twitter, or you can just reach out to me via any of the social networks, via my website, simonfielder.com. If you're at all interested, I've got a Substack newsletter where occasionally I talk about action films and also talk about random shit that I'm learning and experiencing here in culturally quite different Mumbai, India. That's about it, I would say.
And that's Mumbai from him. And Mumbai from me.
He's absolutely done it. Mumbai! I want to say we did that before Smartless, but I can't be sure.